Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 2023 Chief of Police Public Forum. Today's event is to go ahead and give the opportunity for the final candidates to get to know our community and vice versa. Before we begin, we'll go ahead and get some housekeeping out of the way. Restrooms are going to be towards the left exit of this building. We have city staff who will assist you if you need assistance. They also have evaluation sheets and pens. If you have not received one, please do so now before we begin the public forum, so you can either write your notes, but also those notes will be able to provide us feedback on your opinion of the candidates this evening. No speaking will be allowed while the candidates are asking questions. We are asking you to please silence all cell phones and other electronic devices. Each candidate will be asked the same question. Each candidate will be given 5 minutes to answer said question. We are going to go ahead and also offer the media some time to ask questions if they arrive today. We want to wish all of you the best, and let us begin. Starting with Mr. Rojas, please introduce yourself and tell us why you want to be our next Chief of Police.
So good evening. My name is Robert C. Rojas. I'm currently a deputy commander with the El Paso County Sheriff's Office. I've been with the Sheriff's Office for 23 years. I started when I was 20 years old. And the reason I started with the Sheriff's Office is because nobody else was going to hire a 20-year-old in law enforcement. So I've done my career in the Sheriff's Office. I worked as a detention officer. I worked as a deputy. As a deputy, I was a field training officer. I was an acting supervisor. And after doing my time as a deputy, I moved into special traffic investigations, which is the investigation of motor vehicle fatalities and severe motor vehicle crashes. I did that for several years, and then I had the opportunity to move to the training academy where I trained entry-level cadets in both detention and deputy ranks. And then once I did my time there, I did approximately 2.5 years, I promoted to the level of sergeant. As a sergeant, I worked in multiple aspects. I was a patrol sergeant. I was also charged with the decentralization of the El Paso County Sheriff's Office, as well as special traffic investigations. I promoted to lieutenant. As a lieutenant, I was the SWAT lieutenant, the special teams lieutenant. I worked several major operations while I was a lieutenant with the Sheriff's Office, such as the presidential visits, both first one and the second one, the response to Walmart, and then the ongoing support for the El Paso Police Department for the Walmart. In addition to that, I also was charged with some of the COVID issues that faced the Sheriff's Office in 2020. And then shortly after that, I was given the opportunity to become the Criminal Investigations Lieutenant. And there I supervised the Major Crimes Unit, records, and many other sections. I was appointed to Commander in March, a year and a half ago. And I've been there as a Criminal Investigations Commander since then. I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I have a public administration master's degree. I'm also a graduate of the National Academy in the 279th session. In addition to that, I'm also a graduate of the Leadership Command College, which is the NA equivalent for Texas. I'm especially proud of that because in our department, or in our agency, currently there are only 4 others with both those designations, and previous only 1 other person has done it. So in our history, to my knowledge, only 5 people have been able to do that in a 1,000-man agency. Personally, I'm married. I have 2 beautiful daughters. I've been married for 17 years now. My oldest daughter is 16. She's from Eastlake High School. And I have my youngest daughter who's actually playing volleyball right now, which is why my family's not here. She's at Eastlake Middle School. I'm extremely involved in their lives. I run their softball teams. I volunteer as a head coach for a softball organization that I think we're pretty successful. In addition to that, I also am the president of the Eastlake Booster community. The reason I want to be your next chief of police is it's the next logical step in my career. I'm from El Paso. I was born in El Paso. My parents were raised from, my mom was from Clint and my dad is from Socorro. I have deep ties to the community of the Lower Valley, and I truly, truly believe that with my experience, my family tradition, my integrity, and my ethics, that I will be a fantastic chief of police for the city of Socorro.
Candidate Chavez, same question. Your time starts now.
Thank you. My name is Omar Chavez. I was born in California, but I was raised in Chihuahua, Mexico until the age of 16. The age of 16, I moved into the community of Anthony, New Mexico, where I grew up and graduated from Santa Teresa High School. I work in the local community of the Anthony, Texas, Anthony, New Mexico area. And then my passion for law enforcement began when I had interaction with the Anthony Police Department. I started working for the Anthony Police Department back in late 1996, early 1997, where I started as a patrol officer, then I became a field training officer and a patrol sergeant. My ambition was beyond that. I wanted to work for a large agency. Started working for El Paso Sheriff's Office in 2001. Graduated from the basic detention officer as the top cadet, and I received a commendation from back then Leo Samaniego. A year and 2 months later, after working at the downtown jail, I attended the basic peace officer course, Deputy Academy, and again I graduated at the top of my class, and I received another commendation from Sheriff Leo Samaniego. I was assigned to patrol. About 3 years later into my career, I became a field training officer. Around that same time, 2006, that's when I became a SWAT team member for the El Paso Sheriff's Office. In 2006, I became a detective, top of my test, top of the exam. I was assigned to Property Crimes Division, where I have the opportunity to work financial crimes and also auto theft in combination with the El Paso Police Department and the FBI. A year later, I took the exam for sergeant, which again, I was one of the top scores, and I was promoted to sergeant. As a sergeant, I worked patrol in the Lower Valley, Montana Vista, and the Canotillo area. As a sergeant, I was also assigned for approximately 4 years to the Homeland Security section, where I managed the grants for the county of El Paso and was assigned to a county representative of Office of Emergency Management under the orders or appointed by back then Judge Veronica Escobar. I had full discretion and authority to work on grants and represent other small municipalities such as Socorro, Horizon, Clean, Anthony, and many others. In 2017, I was hired by the United States Department of State. I passed my background and received a secret clearance. I attended the training in Montrose, Virginia, graduated from the DOS DSS training program as a contractor. I deployed to Kabul, Afghanistan as a member of the ERT team, a special response team, which is sort of like a SWAT team for the U.S. Embassy, and we were entrusted with the protection of the U.S. ambassador and the movement of dignitaries throughout the country of Kabul. In 2017 as well, we were engaged in different conflicts with ISIS, where I had contact and a combat experience with ISIS. I then continued with my contract work with the U.S. Department of State, and for the last 3.5 years, almost 4 years, I worked for a special program in the city of Mexico City. From there, I worked as an instructor for different Mexican police forces throughout the nation of Mexico, and I've been teaching Mexican police forces ever since. I'm a small business owner. I'm the owner of a security company here in town. I still hold my secret clearance under the State Department. I'm a reserve deputy sheriff with a county here in Texas. I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and a master's degree in business administration. My family, I have my daughters. One is pursuing her master's degree in psychology, graduated from NMSU. My youngest daughter, she graduated from Santa Teresa High School, and she's pursuing her nursing degree through Texas Tech. Why do I want to be a chief of police for the city of Socorro? For me, it's to give back, share that experience, that training, and I think I have the leadership traits that can provide a great benefit to this city. For me, it's not a career advancement. I did run for sheriff last year in Doña Ana County, New Mexico. For me, is the enforcement of the law and the protection of the rule of law and the protection of the U.S. Constitution. Thank you.
Candidate Purdue, your time starts now.
Yeah, good afternoon or good evening. I'm James Purdue. I was born in El Paso, Texas. I'm married, have 2 kids, a 40-year-old and a 30-year-old daughter. One lives here in El Paso. Got 4 grandchildren. I'm proud of that. I got my education includes a master's degree in leadership studies from UTEP, a master's degree in public administration from UTEP, a master's degree in human resources, a bachelor's in science, and an associate's in business management administration. Served 27 years in U.S. Army Special Forces and Special Operations units. I've led anywhere from 12 to 2,000 personnel on a daily basis. So I've got proven leadership. I've served in several combat tours, earned a Silver Star for my actions. Served a year and a half in Iraq for the State Department, working personal security detail for the as a assault commander, a tactical commander, and agent in charge, protecting dignitaries such as Hillary Clinton, John McCain, Pelosi, and numerous others. So I have some time there. I served as the assistant professor at the Military Academy on Post, year-long academy, for the last 20 years. So that's my full-time job. I've worked with Socorro PD for the last 16 years as a reserve sergeant, reserve corporal, and also as a interim chief of police for a short period of time. That's about it.
At this time, we're going to go ahead and open the questions to the public. If you would like to ask a question, please step up to the podium, state your name clearly into the microphone, and ask your question.
Margarita Perez, I would like to know how familiar are you with all of the communities, new and old, here in Socorro?
We'll go ahead and start with candidate Purdue, and your time starts now.
So Socorro has a lot of rich history. We've got a lot of old buildings along Socorro Road, churches. It's a good community. It's building. We're constantly growing. If you look at Passmore alone, we built so much community out there in those fields. We had two new divisions out there. We got a new division off of Old Waco, New Waco tanks. We actually got all those new buildings coming along New Waco off of Melissa. So we're going to start building bigger than we are. We're about almost 38,000 population right now. So we're going to continue to get busy and grow. I think this is a good community. I think it's a safe community. The law enforcement does a really good job protecting the citizens. Yeah.
Candidate Chavez, same question, and your time starts now.
Yes, ma'am. I'm extremely familiar with the city of Socorro. I consider this whole region or this whole area, from Anthony, New Mexico, all the way to Tornillo, my home, my area, my hometown, Las Cruces, part of New Mexico. I actually work in this area as a patrol officer, back in the day when the city was not as big as it is right now. It's grown quite a bit. It's actually grown for the better, beautiful buildings, more business, more infrastructure. So I'm extremely familiar with the streets. We used to respond to calls here a lot of the times. We used to assist the back then smaller police department. And I'm actually impressed with the quality of officers that I've seen working with the Socorro Police Department. I had an opportunity to interact with them in different situations when I was working different projects, textile projects, construction, and things like that. And I'm really impressed with the quality, the young generations of officers that they have here. And I'm pretty sure they're doing well because like I said, I had an interaction with them, and they're smart, they're sharp looking. The community, as we know it, mostly Hispanic. We have our culture, we have our roots here. And a lot of people live here from generation to generation to generation, and we share a lot of that culture from across the border with the sister city of Ciudad Juarez. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Rojas, your time starts now.
So, I'm extremely familiar with Socorro. I was raised in Socorro. In fact, if I happen to get emotional, it's because I pretty much grew up on Rio Vista. My grandfather was from Socorro, and my family ties are from Socorro. I'm the only person on my dad's side of the family who hasn't graduated from Socorro High School. So I'm a Mamawood Ram. I graduated in 1999. Please don't hold that against me. But I will also tell you that I baptized my daughter in St. Peter's and Paul. I know this community. I know what this community, where it's going. I know where it's come from. I can remember the cotton fields, and I can remember, and I can see the development now. I know that there are growing pains, and there's community or population that comes in, but Socorro is a phenomenal little city in El Paso County that I don't think people get to know as well. As far as knowing the different communities, to give you the names, I can give you the names that I've worked, or the certain street names like Bovey and Bauman, and the streets that my wife grew up on and her family grew up on. What I can also tell you is that I've serviced this community not only as a deputy like Omar, but also as the commander, as a lieutenant of criminal investigations. It's my division and my section that comes out and supports the Socorro Police Department in those homicides and in those serious events. So to answer your question, I believe I'm extremely knowledgeable with the community. I would like to know more of the community needs. I have been watching some of the council board meetings, and I've seen some of the concerns that are going up off of the new developments around the park. So those are things that I definitely plan on taking back to the office and making sure that I can support to ensure that the community is safe. Although it is safe, we can always be better. Thank you.
At this time, is there anyone else from the public who would like to ask a question? Please step forward to the podium. Please introduce yourself and ask your question.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Mario Benavides. My question is two-pronged, quick. What is your management style? What are your philosophy within the organization, within the police department? What do you perceive this department to become if you become the chief? Second part of it is, what are your thoughts on the community policing concept? We're big advocates on that within this organization. We try to use that model because, after all, we are a community-based service organization. If you guys could elaborate on that, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you.
We'll go ahead and start with candidate Chavez. Your time starts now.
Thank you. Yes, as far as my philosophy for leadership, I'm a team player, first and foremost. I allow my officers the latitude to make their own choices and decisions, and I provide them the trust that they need to do their job out on the field. And in order for me to be trustful of my officers, I also have to provide them the training, the tools, training, and equipment that they need to feel comfortable to do their job out there. Because if they have the training and experience and the tools, they're going to have confidence to do their job. Also, they need a leader who's going to back them up 100% in their decision making. And I'm known for that, for backing my officers throughout my career. Always vouching for my officers as long as they do the right thing. And I had a good mentor. We all had a good mentor, and that was Sheriff Leo Samaniego. And I used to follow his philosophy, his way of thinking of do the right thing. And I always back up my officers. For that reason, I want to give them the training and equipment they need and the support that they need to be out there with them, leading from the front. What was the second part of the question, sir? I'm sorry?
The second part of the question was, what is your take on the community-based policing philosophy, and how would you implement it as the chief of police here in the city of Socorro?
Correct. Without the community, we're nothing. As a chief of police, I have to gain the trust three different arenas. First of all, work in cooperation as a team with City Council to make progress within the agency to achieve our mission. That's number one. The other arena is to gain your trust, your respect. Just because I get appointed chief of police doesn't automatically give me your respect towards me. I have to earn that, and the way I earn that is by being fair and equitable and provide you everything that you need to do your job out there. And finally, third, the most important, the community acceptance. To have transparency in our actions with the community. Without transparency, you cannot gain their trust. To be fair in our actions with the public. When they see a fair chief, when they see a transparent police department, a transparent chief, they start opening up to us. My goal is, if I appointed chief of police, is to reach out to the community leaders, the different churches, the different clergies, the different business owners, the different families out there, to learn about their needs. What is it that they need? What is it that they feel fearful? What can we do to improve? And have regular meetings so they can share that knowledge, that experience, that intelligence that we need to work hand in hand with them. Because without the community, if you don't have acceptance without the community, we're nothing. We're not going to be able to accomplish the mission. And my mission is to enforce the law. First and foremost, enforce the law and to protect the constitutional rights of every single person in this city. As law enforcement, we take an oath, and that's to protect your constitutional rights and to enforce the law and to make the community safer, to be proactive, to try to do our best to be proactive for your sake, for your safety.
Thank you. Candidate Rojas, same question, and your time starts now.
So, I used this earlier, but I'm like a chameleon. It depends when it comes to leadership, right? Everybody learns differently and they're led differently. Some people need to be patted on the back often, and some people are able to let loose and you can just let them go. So I'm assuming this is a question as far as the men and women of the police department. So I think I have to learn you all. I have to learn the officers that are within the Socorro Police Department. I need to get to know them. I need to know what makes them tick. I explained to you that I'm a huge softball girl dad. So you want me to be, you want me to listen, you want me to pay attention, you want me to be like that, then that's something that's important to me. So I need to make sure that I know my employees. So I'm kind of a chameleon in that it depends on the situation. Situation dictates. I believe I'm transformational because I can get people to see the vision that I have and bring them aboard, right? There's a great book, and it's called From Going Good to Great, and it talks about a bus driver, and you look at a chief of police as the bus driver, and he's going towards a mission, and you want people on that bus who are going to follow that vision, right? And you don't want them to cause a breakdown of that bus. But in addition to that, I also think I'm a servant leader because it's all about the people. It's all about the people. And this doesn't just include the police department and the officers that are in the police department. It includes the community. And I am their servant. And I am a huge believer that I am a public servant. And above all, I am a servant to the public. As far as the community policing, I think you guys are doing a great job. In fact, I commend you all for the PAL program. I think that's awesome. I think that the things that you're doing with the community in that way are excellent. I truly, truly believe, believe in community policing. My heart is with the community, as I've told you about the teams that I volunteer to coach, about the booster club that I volunteer to lead. So I absolutely believe that the police department needs to be embedded with the community. The community needs to know that they're approachable and that we're here to serve them. So I believe that it starts on a top down and as far as community policing. And if I'm not out there in the public and I'm not out there at the community events and I'm not showing interest, then that means that I'm not buying into community policing. But I will tell you that I absolutely believe that community policing is what we need to be doing. You all are doing a fantastic job with the programs that you have, and I think that we can do a fantastic job together. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to ask a question?
I don't think Mr. Purdue
Oh,
got that.
I'm so sorry. I did not mean that, candidate Purdue.
All right, so I think there's no one set style for leadership. I think the situation dictates what kind of leader you're going to be. You can be autocratic, you could be a democratic, you can be a coaching, you can be a mentor. It all depends what the situation is. I believe in all three of them, a mixture of all three of them, because too often that we tend to counsel people for doing things or write them up for doing things, and that's wrong. We all learn from mistakes. Everything I've learned is from mistakes, so you can't counsel somebody every time they make a mistake. They're learning. They're in the learning process. But, you know, that comes with trust and confidence. You got to have trust and confidence in your officers to do the right thing. And like I say, I firmly believe that my leadership style is easygoing. I can be easy, but I can be firm at the same time. But you don't want to come across as being toxic, because if you're all the time autocratic, then you're always authoritarian and dictating everything. You don't want that. You want buy-in from the office. You want buy-in from your leadership. You want everybody to work together. Very often I would have an idea. I'd bring my staff in and I'd ask them, hey, this is what I want. I want to do it A, B, and C. If they got better ways of doing it, then I'm going to go with it. It's not all, you know, I hate those leaders that it's my way or the highway, or they don't like to listen to their officers. Officers, they got to feel respected. They have to feel worthy. And sometimes we don't give them the proper praise that they need. And so, again, leadership styles depend on the situation. One leadership style don't fit all. What was the second part? The second part was community-based. So community policing is very important. You got to earn the trust and confidence, because when you go out there and talk to the residents, you'll learn stuff that you don't know. You'll learn trends that they don't report. So that's very important to understand and getting based with the community, because you support the community. Everything we do in the law enforcement enforces and their needs out there. So I think, did I answer it there, Sergeant Benavides? Yes, sir, Sergeant.
Thank you, sir. Opening up to the community again. If there's anyone that would like to ask a question, please step to the podium. Please state your name and then ask your question.
Good evening. My name is Officer Ariano with the Socorro Police Department. Regarding training, I just have one question. What are your thoughts on the continuous officer trainings with limited budget that we have as a department?
We'll go ahead and get started with candidate Purdue. Your time starts now.
All right, so I think it's very important that officers maintain, in order to get a well-maintained police force, they got to stay trained. They got to be well-trained, they got to be professional. I think there's money set aside, there's certain money set aside for training. But I think that's very important, because in order to have a professional force, they got to be well-trained. And that's something that we got to continue to do. I'd send officers all the training they get, as long as they get better. Leadership training is always a must. But yes, you know, to have a professional force, you got to be well trained. And there's other courses out there that officers can attend that I think they should attend. That's it.
Were you finished? Were you finished?
Yes, sir.
Candidate Rojas, your time starts now.
So as I explained, I was an instructor at the Region 8 Training Academy. And I think, for one, I think the Region 8 Training Academy, which is a COG-based training academy, is underutilized. I think there's a substantial amount of training that can go through there. And all of that training that's provided there is absolutely free. And it's paid for by grants that come out of the Rio Grande Council of Governments. So that's one option. In addition to that, I have many, many contacts in law enforcement where I'm able to find and locate certain trainings that we can get for free. One of the plans that I have is to meet with people and meet with the employees and determine what their goals and their aspirations are. And if there's certain types of training that they're looking for, it's going to be our goal to go out and look for it and secure it at the best price possible. In addition to that, the sheriff's office with and the budget that I that I manage at the sheriff's office, we don't have a substantial amount of money set aside for training. Although we do have a larger budget, we don't necessarily have that allotted to training. However, I've located grants and I've located different sources of income that we can use to utilize to better train our officers. For instance, there's a tobacco grant that is heavily underutilized in the El Paso community that I use, and I actually set aside training money so I can train the major crimes unit, the crime victims unit, in addition to them, the crime scene unit. And now I believe that the crime scene, or better yet, the criminal investigations division of the El Paso County Sheriff's Office is one of the highest trained divisions in the sheriff's office. In addition to that, probably even the county of El Paso. We have phenomenal major crimes investigators who have attended high-speed training, and on top of that, we have the crime scene investigators who have also gone through training. And when we do have those trainings, we've opened it up to communities like Socorro, Anthony, and Horizon. So I understand the training requirements that we have. I expect to have highly trained officers, and we're going to do it in the best possible fiscally responsible way that we can here in Socorro.
Candidate Chavez, your time starts now.
Thank you. Good evening, Oscar. To answer your question, training is extremely important. Why? Number one, it reduces liability. It reduces liability on the officer, the agency, and the city. And we know that liability is a financial loss. We don't want to experience that because we want to put that money to good use. Also, you as an officer, you desire more training. Why? Because you have personal career growth goals within the agency. Different officers have different goals. Some want to become STI, special traffic investigators. Some want to become better detectives, or want to become detectives, so they want to go to a crime scene. They want to go to a field interrogation techniques through the FBI. Every officer has something that ticks and they want to do in their career. Well, with this agency, of course. So, having said that, I've been an instructor also since 2005, and I've been an instructor at the Sheriff's Office and at the private sector with private sector companies, and I've been an instructor with the State Department. Pretty much I've been an instructor all my life, and I'm subject matter expert on some of those fields. And I taught different classes, from classroom law classes to more tactical and advanced classes. You name a certification, I probably have it. But it won't be me actually doing the classes. It will be me in some cases as your chief of police, going out there with you and giving you training, giving training to your SWAT team or a special response team, and giving training to the officers on many other things like baton, OC spray, certifications, you name it, taser. But as a sergeant of the Homeland Security section with El Paso Sheriff's Office, I myself personally handle those grants. I myself apply for those grants, monitor the performance period, and disperse those monies and look for training, look for equipment, and look for training. And that training was given to different sections, different divisions within the Sheriff's Office, the Search and Rescue Team, the SWAT team, and other divisions. We also look for funding and equipment and training for other agencies. Your agency received also different equipment and training. I think it was fair in the disbursement of those monies and training, because I had the whole discretion as to how I was going to disperse that money with the municipalities, with Anthony, Socorro, and Horizon. And I tried to be fair and equitable to provide that, share that wealth with the smaller agencies that, as we know, we have a limited budget because the tax revenue is small, and we cannot allocate that much money for training. But rest assured that I'm 100% pro-training, because a trained officer is a better officer. I'm a 100% supporter of high-performance teams. In order to have a high-performance team, you have to have training. The more training, the better you can do out there. The more confidence, the better you're gonna do. You're gonna be more productive out on the field because you're gonna feel confident in your training. So rest assured that I will do the impossible to get you the training that you need. And just like Mr. Rojas, I'm also well connected in the industry of training, in the tactical field with different instructors, you name it. I'm extremely connected with that field because I've been doing that not only here in El Paso, in Texas, throughout the nation, and other countries, to include Mexico. And I have a great reputation for being a great instructor throughout Mexico, through the State Department and the U.S. Embassy. So yes, I'm 100% Oscar on that.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the public who would like to ask a question? Please step to the podium. State your name and then ask your question, sir.
Jose Marrufo, longtime resident of Socorro. I've seen this department grow, okay? I've been here when it was a shitty department, under shitty leadership. Pardon the French there. But I've seen them grow to what they are right now. And it's a bit all because of residents coming up here and voting to give them raises. And I've seen the quality officers that we have right now. And I'm happy to live in Socorro, and I feel safe in my community. That being said, you say you got your officers back and all the training that you're gonna give them. But when it comes down to the money issue, will you stand before the city manager and fight for your guys? Retention is a big issue here. If we can't keep him, no matter how much training you give him, they're gonna go get it and give it to another town, city, all right? I'd rather keep them because I know they like their job here. I've seen it. So what will it take, and will you stand up to the plate when it comes for your officers so that residents like me and other residents can live in peace and sleep at night? Will you stand up to your bosses? That's my question. Thank you.
We'll start with candidate Rojas, and your time starts now.
So, Mr. Marufo, absolutely. So I think it's a partnership. I see them, I can see where the city manager is the boss, and she answers to council as well as everybody else. But I can tell you that I've learned how to navigate waters and lead upwards and find them and get them to buy into what is needed. I absolutely think that you're right. If you're training officers and they're leaving, there's a reason. I truly believe that people leave leadership, not necessarily monetary. I think people need purpose when they're here at work. And if they don't have purpose at work, they're gonna go elsewhere. And I believe that I can find a way to work with city council, with the city manager's office, and everybody else in the city to ensure that you have the best policing agency in the county of El Paso. That's my ultimate goal. My ultimate goal is to make Socorro the safest community in the county of El Paso. And I think that working together with the city manager, with the city council, and working in as a team, I think that we can do this.
Candidate Chavez, same question. Your time starts now.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Mr. Marrufo, haven't seen you for many, many years, but I've known you for a long time for the sheriff's office. Glad to see you again. Glad to see you're in good health. I'm going to tell you something. I will do everything possible as a chief of police to work, and like I mentioned before in previous days, to work as a team with department heads, with the city manager, with the mayor, to do what's best for the community. I have to understand that there are budget constraints. I have to understand that state bills have capped the amount of taxes that they can raise, not only for the police department, to share with the police department, but for other divisions, other departments within the city. But you can bet that I will stand up and fight for my officers every step of the way to be able to provide them with what they need. Having said that, yes, as a chief of police, I have to answer to the city council, the mayor, and the city manager. But in reality, and I tend to differ with Mr. Rojas here, they're not my boss. Here we have the bosses. We, the people. The community is the boss. The community is the one that put these ladies and gentlemen in the position that they are right now, and they have entrusted them to do what's best for everyone. So ultimately, I answer to you. And yes, when I ran for sheriff, I will answer only to one people, right? Had I been elected. To the people that elected me. Obviously, as a chief of police, things are a little different because I have to answer to city council, the manager, and the mayor. But I will stand 100% and fight for what is right. I'm a team player, and I'm extremely, extremely diplomatic and flexible. We're trying to attain the mission and goals of the city and the mission and goals of the police department. And I'm extremely flexible and diplomatic about it. Set aside political lines, because everybody has here a political affiliation. And that's the worst thing that we can do if we put our political affiliation on the line. Because we need to think about the public, not our political affiliation. If we only do that here in America, if cities and counties only were to do that here in America, we will be living in a different America, Mr. Marrufo. We truly will. But we can't seem to be bipartisan. We can't seem to step aside from those lines. So yes, I will fight. I will fight for more officers to try to get them as much support and equipment and everything that they need to the best of my ability. Now, you know me, and I have a reputation for standing for what is right. Okay? I am not a politician, even though I ran for sheriff. I'm a law enforcement officer, and I'm guided by law, by the rule of law, the Texas Penal Code, and first and foremost, sir, this. This is what makes America what it is right now. Different from any other country. I cannot deviate from this. I cannot be bought. I cannot be ordered to look the other way. Okay? I will enforce the law equitably and with fairness. I don't take favoritism. I don't do special favors. None of that. I don't play that game. So, when you make your decision to have a chief of police, have that in mind, that when it comes to that level of integrity, to compromise the rule of law, to take sides, to take political alliances, or to look the other way, or to look away from corruption or any of that, that doesn't play with me. I'm not going to do it. So if that's not the chief that you don't want, then don't select me as a chief. But if you want a chief that is going to uphold
Unfortunately,
this,
your 5
please
minutes is
select
up.
me.
Next person that would like to ask a question? Oh, I'm
Oh,
so
yeah,
sorry.
I want to answer this one. I definitely want to answer this one. All right, so my
Your
time
time
starts?
starts
All right,
now.
look, retaining, manning, and recruiting is a #1 issue. It has to be. Look, you can have the best leadership in the world, but if you don't have the budget to man, it doesn't matter. Look, as a chief, I'm going to have to put a tournament on the bleeding, because right now we're manned at about 44. Well, we're supposed to have about 44 officers. That's not including the 5 sergeants and 3 lieutenants, or 2 lieutenants and 3 corporals. So we got about 30 officers right now. Out of them 30 officers, we're short 7 already, so we're about 23, all right? Out of them 23, we've got about 3 that's leaving because of they're leaving for better money. I got it. Then you've got a couple on light duty. So now you're down to about, what, under 20. Then there's going to be several more leaving that nobody knows about yet because of money issues. So what you're going to have is this. With all these people leaving, you're going to have half the force to do all the work. These officers do about 27,000 calls in the last 10 months. That's a lot. Well, 28,000. That's a lot of calls. That's about 2,800 calls a month. Now they did about 2,600 something reports. That's a lot of reports. You look about that, that's about 260 a month. So if you've got all these officers leaving, you got all these, and only a few staying, they're going to do double the work for the same pay. And by the way, they'll probably get more overtime that they don't need. And so how's that affect the community? It's going to limit the calls that we're going to be able to address the community. Why? Because if you don't have that many officers, we're going to have to pick and choose what calls we can go to. We're going to have to prioritize calls that we can make because we're not going to have enough officers to do. Right now, if you call in for service, officers there usually within 5-10 minutes. 10 minutes is a long time, but within probably about 5 minutes. And it doesn't matter if it's a call for loud music, if it's disturbance or whatever, they're there. That may not happen if we don't man the force. So a problem is, how do we fix that? We can't match other departments. I got it, but we got to close the gap. We got to close the gap and make it so officers want to stay. Right now, officers want to stay, but they just can't, they can't pay their bills. They can't pay their, whatever. So think about it this way. If you have to drive an extra 5 or 10 minutes further every day for $7 more an hour, which is about $14,600 a month, would you do it for doing the same job? Absolutely, you would. So think about that. If you look at Horizon PD right now, they make $56,868 a year for an officer with 4 years intermediate peace officer license. Socorro, with a 4-year intermediate, an officer with 4 years of intermediate license, makes about $47,975. That's about $8,000 difference. So we got to gap that, bridge that gap so we can keep these officers, because we've got a lot of good officers. And so what we do is everybody is short officers. So what do? They're opening up their departments where they can do lateral transfers. So what they do is they gain all the officers that come here and train qualified. And then what happens is we may get some rookies out of the police academy. So what's going to happen is it's going to take a couple years to fill the officers that we're missing. And the only way we can do that is offer somehow gap that pay gate where we can keep officers, because we're going to have to keep those officers. Those officers are not going to stay and do double the work and not get paid. So we got to figure out how can we take some monies and move it over to get these guys paid what equivalent to other organizations are paying. I mean, it's going to take a while to backfill just the ones that are leaving. And so we want to get people to come in and want to come to the SCORE. Nobody wants to come to the SCORE PD for the low pay and work the hours. They work we got some awesome hours, our officers. I've been there 16 years, and I agree with that individual that said it. We had some shitty officers 16 years ago. We had a shitty department. We had terrible equipment. Now we got some of the best equipment there is. I mean, we got great vehicles, but I can't keep officers if we don't pay them.
That's your 5 minutes.
Eddie Smith, Lieutenant with the SCORE Police Department. I want to piggyback on what Mr. Marufo was asking. What is your plan for training and retention of officers? How are we going to bring officers in and retain them? and I know pay is a big deal, but we're competing with El Paso, we're competing with the sheriffs, we're competing with all these other agencies. So what are your plans on trying to attract them to come to Socorro and keep them here?
We'll go ahead and get started with candidate Chavez, and your time starts now.
Yes, Lieutenant, to answer your question, as far as the retention, okay, and I always said it, we join law enforcement because we love this profession. We know we're not gonna get rich, but we need to pay the officers what they're worth, right? For their risking their lives every day out there out on the field. But I always said that having a great working atmosphere where you have great supervisors, lieutenants, captains, and sergeants, corporals that support them, that encourage them, that mentor them, and that guide them and correct their actions in a professional manner makes a lot of difference. When you have that type of leadership and when you have training, when you provide the officers with training, like, wow, they're sending me to these schools. I get to do this, I get to do that, I get to have this certification. They're giving me all this training, they're giving me all this equipment, and I have great supervisors. Then that officer feels where it's in the morning, in the afternoon, or the graveyard shift, grabs the uniform, and instead of being like, I gotta go to work, they're like, all right, let's see what we can do tonight. That's the type of feeling that the officer gets when they have all those three things. Better yet, if we have more pay, right? So yes, my plan is work with city council and everybody involved to try to give a step increase to those officers that have a intermediate peace officer certification, advanced, master peace officer, bachelor's degree, master's degree. A little something, a little incentive to make them feel appreciated, right? That goes a long way. And I think we can manage once we look at the numbers. The other thing, get more money. You know, I'm a big proponent of exploring every single grant out there, Border Star, Stone Garden, Operation Lone Star, you name it. There's grants out there that, yes, they don't necessarily reflect that they're gonna get paid more an hour, but on their days off, they can supplement their pay by working that overtime, time and a half, working those special programs, right? Also, the city, I don't know what the city of Socorro policy is, and I think, you know, I've been told different things about extra duty employment, allowing those officers to work TXDOT, traffic control. They get paid $55, $60 an hour, okay? Allowing them to work at other Walmarts. Off-duty employment that is not gonna bring a liability to the department, that is not gonna put in bad shame, because I don't like bars, I don't like officers working at bars or questionable establishments, but allowing them to work outside the city so that they can supplement their salaries. Now, about retention, we already talked about morale and having the training and good supervisors and having a great working atmosphere. How do we recruit? And I mentioned before, let's start hitting those high schools. Let's start hitting those seniors. Let's start having that explorer program that starts building up those seniors so they want to stay here in the city because we're Hispanic. We want to live and work in the area where we were raised, with grandma, with grandpa, with your parents. Some of these families live in the same complex, in the same acreage, right? Generations. So what better yet if they can have a career in their hometown? That's one aspect about that. The other one, you mentioned there's the sheriff's office, the PD, the Texas DPS, and other agencies, they're stealing our officers after 2, 3 years, 4 years. We're not getting our return on investment because they're leaving for better things, better high-paying jobs, more career advancement. Well, how about we get those officers back? Because I can tell you, if you give me the opportunity to be chief, I already have retired officers lining up to come back and work over here. Now, their motivation is not their pay because they're getting their retirement, and they're extremely well-trained from different agencies, that once they hear Omar Chavez is the chief, they're gonna come over here and work for the Socorro Police Department because they know they're gonna be supported and backed up, and they're gonna be able to do their job out here, be cops. And they provide a wealth of training. So we're getting back that knowledge from the sheriff's office, we're getting back that knowledge from the PD and Texas DPS, because they want to stay here in El Paso, they want to live here in Socorro or in the surrounding areas, and they already have the retirement. So we're not investing any money whatsoever on those retired people. And they're willing and able, and they have the brains and the experience to serve this community. So we have the retirees, and we have the newer generations at the high school that we need to start to mold. That's one, the high school. Two, the retirees.
And that's your time.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and continue with candidate Purdue, and your time starts now.
All right. Yeah, pay and benefits is probably the biggest reason why we cannot keep officers within the department. I know, 16 years. I'm the only one in 16 years left. That tells you something. I've seen them. I mean, we've got probably the best officers I've seen in the 16 years I've been here. They're good. They're gung-ho. They're young. We got good leadership, sergeants, lieutenants. They're really good. But I can't do nothing if I can't gap that bridge to make it compatible with everybody else. Otherwise, we lose all this experience and everybody else gains experience. So, we got to figure out a way. How can we? Nobody's coming here unless they're right out of the academy. I could tell you, no one's going to come here for less pay when they go to El Paso, the SO and everything else. So, maybe we have to up it in the meantime to make like $7 an hour more, and that's a lot. That's a lot in a budget, but that is the only way we can fix this department. The only way. We will never maintain quality officers with the amount of pay they're getting now. It's just a straight fact. I talk with these officers every day. I see these officers every day. I listen to these officers every day, and that's it. They're not leaving because they don't like Socorro. They love Socorro. They love everything about Socorro. They just can't pay their bills with what they're getting paid, and that's the truth. And so if you turn around tomorrow and said, hey, we're going to give you a $7 raise and we're compatible with everybody else, I think they'd stay. I think they'd stay because now they're getting paid their worth. And then pensions too. I mean, if you look at other places, they're getting incentives. They're getting if you get a master's degree or a bachelor's degree, you're getting X amount of money. If you have a master or advanced degree, you get more money. They get differential pay. They get all these other pays that we don't get. And I got it. We got a budget we got to live with. But everybody else has budget too. So we got to figure out a way. We'll never be fully manned if we don't figure out the budget. It's just the way that we got to figure out. Only way we keep these officers is pay them what they're worth. And like I say, we lose more money every year because we have to turn around and train these guys over and over. And it's a revolving clock, revolving door. We get some guys, we lose some guys. We get some guys, we lose them. And it's all about pay and pension. So, we have to work on that's the number one issue as a chief is you got to work on these guys. How do we keep these guys? Like I say, we're losing a lot right now because all the other agencies are short. So what they're doing, they're opening up their lateral transfers. So what they do, they steal all our qualified police officers who've been on the force 3 or 4 years, and then we're short. We're not getting anybody coming over here with all the qualifications because we're not paying them. But if we can pay them equivalent, we can probably entice and start filling up our force again.
Candidate Rojas, your time starts now.
So, Lieutenant Smith, to answer your question, I can't make any promises that I have no idea what I'm going into. I don't know what the budget is. I don't know what the line items are. I don't know where the city or the police department is spending their money. I can tell you that when I do become the police chief, my plan is to definitely sit down and look at my budget and learn my budget and learn what I can and what I can't do. In addition to that, I plan on sitting down with the city manager and even all the council members, to include the mayor, to find out what exactly is going on, right? I can't make a promise to sit there and say that I'll do that. I absolutely believe what these two gentlemen are saying is that you need to pay the officers for what they're worth. I absolutely believe in that. But I will tell you that I've been blessed as a deputy and even as a detention officer and going up is that I didn't necessarily do it because I wanted the money, right? I didn't necessarily do it because I needed the money. In fact, I mean, I've been blessed also where I don't necessarily look at my check stub. I feel that my job or my career and my every day when I go to work, I have purpose. People have to have purpose. They have to feel valued. And maybe we can't do a $7 increase because it's not feasible, because we don't have the tax base to be able to support that. But we can definitely invest in our employees, and we can definitely give them the training to make them high speed, or to empower them for the ability to learn more in different aspects of law enforcement. But to go and say that this is what my plan is and what do I plan on doing, that I can't tell you. I can tell you this. I can tell you that when I've ran commands, whether it be as a lieutenant or as a sergeant or even as a commander, is people don't necessarily want to leave to go to another division, whether they can make more money or they can't. They want to work, not necessarily for me, but for the team that I'm on. And I think that that's absolutely something that we need to do. Sit down with the city manager. Many times it's communication. I see things from an officer point of view, and I see that they may be struggling to make ends meet. But maybe they don't understand the community at large and what the community is having to do as well to make ends meet. So I think there's a breakdown in communication that we can actually bridge, and that we can also communicate what are the officers' needs, what are their wants, what are things that they need to feel valued and to have purpose, and what can we do, and where's the middle ground for us to be able to bring it back together. I believe that, again, I'm an optimist. I really don't look at things in a pessimistic view. I think I'm a realist, but I do look at the glass being half full. And I truly, truly think that me being the chief is going to bring a light, not necessarily that Burton had any issues, or the Chief Burton or any of the previous ones, because I don't want to bring that up because that's irrelevant, because we're going to go into the future, and I think we're going to do it together, and I think that we can do a fantastic job if we learn how to communicate with all the sections of the city of Socorro, to include the taxpayers and to include the public. Thank you.
Good evening, candidates. And first and foremost, I want to thank the men and women of the law enforcement community for keeping our community safe. Socorro being the second largest municipality in the county of El Paso, we're home to almost every single law enforcement agency that has ever existed in the United States. What would you say your relationship is with the local agencies here within the county and surrounding area of Socorro?
We'll go ahead and get started with 5 minutes to candidate Purdue.
Well, all I could say is I only know some of the key leadership in some of those organizations. I haven't really had to interact with them as a police officer here in Socorro. But as a chief, obviously, hopefully Bobby Flores makes it as the sheriff over there. He's a really good guy, and I think everybody here can work with Mr. Flores. Yeah, that's all I got to say on that. I mean, I don't have a whole lot to add to that. I'm done.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and pass the mic over to candidate Chavez. Your 5 minutes starts now.
Well, to answer your question, sir, I think during the last 23, 24 years of my career, I worked together with different organizations, not only within the sheriff's office, but my time was with the Anthony Police Department and the other agency that I'm currently at right now. And through all those years, we developed contacts. And it's usually at the rank and file officer, sergeants, and lieutenants that we develop that partnership and trust and cooperation. And we work some joint operations and work details, and I think that partnership is still there. Would it be difficult? It depends on who's in office, right? You know, the gentleman here just mentioned that. I won't get into politics, but I agree with that one statement, because we need to have good relationship with the sheriff's office. But I also think that we can have good relationship with the El Paso Police Department, and because they're a neighbor jurisdiction, right? And also with the Isleta tribe. Definitely have a lot more contact with the federal agencies that I work in the past, DEA, FBI, and every single agency. You need to have good relationships with everyone, because at one point or another during your tenure as a chief, my tenure as a chief, or the gentlemen's here, if they get the chief, they're gonna have to work, or I'm gonna have to work with those agencies. So the door has to be open for mutual cooperation. All I can tell you is, regardless of history or previous events or anything like that, my door will be always open, and my support to other agencies if they so desire. I'm willing to cooperate and work as a team member.
Thank you. Candidate Rojas, your time starts now.
To answer your question, sir, I currently sit on the West Texas HIDA Executive Board. I'm the chair for that board. I also sit on the TAG board. On those boards, on those executive boards, you have department heads from the District Attorney's Office, the El Paso Police Department, the Midland Police Department, Texas Department of Public Safety, ICE, every law enforcement agency that's here and that exists here in the county of El Paso, and that's on both boards. In addition to that, I also am part of the Board of Sheriffs Coalition, and I sit on that for Sheriff Wiles, and I have contacts throughout the region from California all the way to the border, the tip of Texas. So I have a fantastic relationship with all department heads, to include different mid managers as well as line officers. I believe, and I pride myself in the relationships that I have with those different agencies. I know what I can tap into here as the chief of Socorro. I know what El Paso PD has available for us. I know what the sheriff's office has available for us as well as the Isleta del Sur Police Department. And then also the Horizon Police Department is also a great, fantastic asset to the city of Socorro, because we're sister cities. Socorro being the south side of I-10, and them being on the north side. And I have a personal relationship with that chief. So I think that I'll be able to bring many, many different assets to the community. And then in addition to that, we'll be able to provide our expertise and our personnel when needed. I'll give you an example. Recently, with the migrant surge, El Paso PD was being overrun downtown. It took a phone call from one of their commanders straight to me while I was out of town for us to be able to provide support. And myself, the patrol commander, we worked so that we could get them the support that they needed from some of our officers. So those are absolutely the relationships that we need to make sure that we have, and that we forge, and that we solidify, so that we can call upon our partners throughout the community to support both the citizens of Socorro, but also the county and the city of El Paso, and the cities of Horizon, San Elizario, as well as Clint. So I pride myself in those relationships. I have personal relationships with many. I talk to them on a continuous basis. So I think that that's something that I can absolutely bring to the city of Socorro.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jimmy Dominguez, corporal with Socorro Police Department. My question is, what is your 5-year strategic plan for the police department?
We're gonna go ahead and start the timer. Candidate Rojas, your time starts now.
So that's a very difficult question without being able to outline it over time. I can pretty much tell you that I have a 100-day, and then I have long-term goals. So my short-term goals are to make sure that I learn the police department of Socorro, learn your processes, learn what's going on in Socorro, learn the personnel, meet the different people that are involved in the police department, the stakeholders out in the community, as well as the stakeholders throughout the city council members, the mayor, the manager. That's my goal. And I think that's going to take a substantial amount of time. I want to get out in the public. To make it as easy as possible, I want to be the best policing agency in the county of El Paso. I want Socorro to be, the Socorro Police Department, to be the best agency and where people want to come work, where people want to come play, and people want to be. I think that you have a fantastic agency right now. It has come a long way, like many people have said, but there's definitely room for improvement, and it has nothing to do with anything that's going on currently. It just has to do with it's time for a new chapter, and it's time for, I believe that chapter includes me, and I really, really want to improve everything, every part of the Socorro Police Department. There are many things that we can work on. I really would like to hit the ground running, but to sit there and say that I want to create this unit and that unit and this unit and that unit and that direction and that and in this direction is very hard for me to know what I'm going to do, because I don't know what the budget is. I don't know what the personnel are. I can tell you what I've researched. I've told you what maybe has been told to me. But again, that's skewed. That's skewed in the eye of the beholder and whoever's telling me that. But I can tell you that if selected or when selected as police chief, that I'm going to be the best police chief that Socorro's ever had. And I can tell you that we're going to make together the department, together we're going to make the department even better.
Thank you. Moving on to candidate Purdue, your time starts now.
Obviously, we want to make sure the goal is to make the department the best there is. We want to make people want to come and work in Socorro. We want to, actually, we're going to have to really sit down and do analysis and see where the strengths and weaknesses are within the department and where we need to go from there. May have to look at, prioritize and look at, is there changes that needs to be changed, or is there changes that need to be made, and prioritize those changes so we could be a top tier police force. You know, one thing is what we could do is, and I think they're in the makings now, is be a member of Texas Police Officer Association accreditation. I think there's 170 tasks that needs to be done, and I think within this force, we can get there. There's only 180 law enforcement agencies out there that is accredited through this program. And it's really the golden standard now in law enforcement to get accredited. So if we can put Socorro PD on the map by being accredited, that goes a long ways, because now that just gives the organization a little bit more pride, to pride themselves of being accredited. So again, and you got to focus, you know, one of my goals is you have to focus on professional development within the organization. If you don't have professional development, leadership, and everything else, the organization is not going to get better. And then you have to really review the officer wellness resources. What do we do for the officers? You know, what kind of wellness programs do we have? And that's important, because we always think about everything else, but we don't think about officers. Officers are the main reason the chief exists, because the road, you know, rubber hits the road with officers. So if you got a workforce that is eager to come to work, happy to be at work, they got good camaraderie, they got good leadership, I think the department will be good. And that's really some of the things that need to happen. And, you know, those are some of my priorities I want to make. Like I say, got to make the department one of the best. And we've come a long ways over 16 years. It used to be, you know, we had a bad name within the other organization. And because of the training that officers come, the quality the officers we're getting, I think we've come a long ways. And we are a good department right now. That's it.
Thank you. Candidate Chavez, your 5 minutes start now.
Thank you. To answer your question, Corporal, yes, at this time it's really difficult, because I will have to sit down and look at the numbers. What is your budget? And then take it from there. Obviously, I have to have short-term goals and long-term goals. Something more of a long-term goal will be to hire more officers, because it's going to take me some time. It's going to take me some time. Right now, I think you're a manning table of 42 or 43, and you're down 15 from what I researched, and just recently lost 8 officers. So within a short time period, I can probably gain those 7 or 8 officers back to fill those shifts that, you're running a skeleton crews. And I plan to do that with retirees and steal them back from the sheriff's office, from the PD and the Texas DPS. So steal back those officers that already come trained, and we don't have to spend any money on them because it's an immediate return on investment. And then start working from there on the long-term goal as far as getting the other 8 or 9 that where we should be up at the money table. Definitely, one of the things that I have to look at the short-term end is take a look at your fleet. Let's see how your fleet is doing, because without patrol vehicles, you can't be out there on the streets. So I need to look at your fleet, see how old, how well what's the health of your fleet, and start working on your fleet one vehicle at a time to make sure that we have the continuity of services. The other thing is immediately look at your training records to see what the officers are lacking, and bring them up, bring them up to the next level, so they can be more, like I said before, more confident and better prepared, and reduce liability to the city. So on the short term, obviously training and the fleet of the vehicles, and possibly gain those 6 to 8 officers on the short-term goal to backfill those open positions that just became available not too long ago. And then the other 8 or 9 start working on them on the long term with the 3-tier plan that I described earlier. Obviously, I want to exploit another resource, and that's the use of reserve officers. It is imperative to have reserve officers because it's pretty much free labor. It is free labor. And I hate to say this, but there was a sheriff that capitalized on the use of reserves, and he was able to free the manpower to do what they needed to do out there and answer calls. And that was in Maricopa County with Sheriff Arpaio. He had a huge reserve force of 200, 300 reserve officers that work at administration, at the jail, and also on patrol, relieving those officers and putting them back on the field, where they didn't have to do the paperwork, the booking, or anything like that. So I do plan to establish a strong reserve officer force that are properly trained so they don't bring any liability to the agency or to the city, and that we can take advantage of. But to answer the question, yes, I need to look at that budget. I need to get to know you and take it from there.
Thank you. We have time for one last question from the audience.
Hello. My name is Bianca Bustamante, and I'm a sergeant with the police department. Coming in as a chief, what immediate changes would you make, if any, and why?
Your 5 minutes starts now, Candidate Chavez.
Okay, immediate changes, obviously. I need to sit down and take a look at what's going on. One of the biggest complaints is time off and overworking of the officers. When you're running a skeleton crews, to be able to provide more time off, to be able to provide better coverage, the Sheriff's Department adopted the 12-hour shifts. I can tell you right now, the majority hated it, myself included. Yes, it put more coverage out there, but it put a lot of strain on the officers because after 12-hour shift, they had to stay up, go to traffic court that didn't open. They get off at 6 or 7, and they had to wait awake till 8 or 9 to go to traffic court, and maybe they're the last one on the docket, or even worse, they will have to go to county court or district court to testify. So I will have officers. I literally had deputies that will come back after getting off from a shift, going to court, and slept actually 2 hours and be back on the streets. I had officers that were involved in accidents, deputies, because of the 12-hour shifts. So I don't think I'll ever implement the 12-hour shifts, no matter how much skeleton we're running. I'm a bigger proponent of the 10-hour shifts because it overlaps officers. So you provide better coverage, higher coverage on those most needed hours, which is from the swing shift to the graveyard shift, and especially on the weekends. Moreover, it gives you 3 days off. And every 3 months, you get a 6-day weekend. And we love that. And we keep that schedule throughout the year. So you know what you're working the next month and the next month and the next month. You know what your days off are gonna be, so you can plan ahead. That brings a peace of mind to the officer, knowing, well, I can plan for time off with my family, I can plan for vacation, I can plan for extra duty employment, things of that nature. So the very first thing that I'm gonna look is the schedules. Also, your districts. I understand there's about 12, 15 districts within the city of Socorro. Maybe there's a time now for redistricting. Maybe unifying some of those districts that are not so densely populated, and assign the officers accordingly, so they can have a proportion, a good ratio of officers per capita, per population. Needless to say, this department is extremely short-handed based on the amount of officers and your per capita. So we don't have the amount of officers that you should have here. But very first thing, start looking at those schedules, make your life easier.
Thank you. Candidate Rojas, your 5 minutes start now.
Okay, so please do not get offended. But if the chief has to wear the hat, I want to change it, because I don't want to wear the hat. That would probably be one of the only things that I could completely come in and do it. It's no offense, like, it truly is. I just don't think I look good in that hat. I look good in the cowboy hat, but not that hat. So I think it's very difficult, Sarge, to be able to say if I'm going to make immediate changes, because it's not easy to say. I do disagree with Mr. Chavez. The majority of deputies do not hate the 12-hour shift. In fact, we can't get them off the 12-hour shift. People do not want to work 8 to 4 or 9 to 5. They value the time off. They work 14 days and they get 14 days off. They may not think that in the jail, because they're in the jail, but to sit there and say that there's a majority of people that don't, I absolutely disagree, because I live it firsthand. I currently still live it. I'm not saying that I am a proponent of 12-hour shifts. I'm a proponent of going out and seeing what is needed in Socorro. There may be things that the lieutenant, a sergeant, a line officer could come up and say, hey, I think we need to change this. And then I need to look at it and then determine, why was it created? What's the history behind it? Why did we do it? And then go from there. To sit there and implement an immediate change could also be very detrimental to morale, because the way the sheriff's office, I've worked for the sheriff's office for 23 years. As an adult, that's my only job I've ever had. So if somebody were to come in and change something, for instance, the uniform or things like that, we took it personal. We took it personal because it was an attack on our culture, on our history. So to come up here and to be able to say that I'm going to implement immediate change, it's very, very difficult to say what I would do and what I wouldn't do, because I just don't know. But I do know that you know what I should change. I know that you all have ideas of what things I should change. And I also know that the city manager and the city council have things that maybe that they would like changed. So I think I have an open ear to hear that and to go from there. But I do think that we need to have a balance of quality of life. People want to work. We want people who are going to come to work. I know that I have kids, and I have a wife, and I have a family that I like to hang out with. So I know that weekends are valuable, and I want to make sure that we're fair, and I want to make sure that everything across the board is fair. And if you look up and you talk to any of my employees, you're going to find out that Commander Rojas is firm but fair, and he has our back. So I can't answer that. The only thing I can tell you is that if the chief has to wear the hat, I'm going to beg to change that policy. Thank you.
Representative Purdue?
Well,
Go ahead.
knowing what the officers and what listening to them, I firmly believe that the 8-hour shift is not the way to go. It doesn't give them a quality of life. I think either 410s or 12-hour shifts, whatever they really desire, it's up to them, because they're the ones out there working. I got to get a consensus, ask officers, do you really want to work 410s or do you want to work 12-hour shift? That's up to them, because they're the ones out there working. So, and then sit down with the sergeants and find out what is working well and what's not working. And then what changes can we make immediately? Like if there's some stuff in there that's not working, let's change it. But if it's working, let's not change it. So really sitting down with the sergeants, because that's where everything happens with the sergeants. Because they're with the officers every day. So sitting down them, seeing what needs to be changed and what works and what doesn't work. Again, I think that changing the hours will do a quality of work. We talked about pay raises earlier, and we talked about extra duty, and we talked about stone garden and all that stuff. That's a supplement. I don't think we should use that for officers to say, hey, I need to make extra end meet by doing extra duties. So, I think we should pay them enough so they don't have to do the stone gardens and, border star and stuff like that, or pull extra duties just to make ends meet. So I think somehow we need to fix that. I think we need to get back to do some quarterly counseling. And when I say that is, officers need to understand quarterly how they're doing. Am I doing, this would a sergeant sit down and say, hey, you know what, these are some of the things you're doing good. These are some things you're not doing good. We need to tweak them a little bit. So I think we need to do that. I think a quarterly officer of the quarter thing, I think that's really good. We do that quite a bit in other organizations. Every quarter recognize an officer for their outstanding work. There's some metrics that got to be incorporated in there, but metrics were, based on A, B, and C. They're the officer of the quarter. They may get a $500 raise or paycheck or some money evaluated with it, and then some time off. I think that gives officers something to strive for. Gives them that one officer that feel that worth that, hey, I got selected, and then obviously put their picture up and so forth. I think those are some of the things. But again, sitting down, like Mr. Rojas said, you have to sit down and see what the pulse is. What really needs to be changed. It's kind of hard to say this needs to be changed until you talk with the organization and get a real feel for what they want. But I firmly believe first thing is the shifts. I don't think I don't like 8-hour shifts myself. I don't think the officers like 8-hour shifts. And so I think that'd be one of the first things we change, whether it be a 410 or 12-hour. I get feedback and see what it is. That's it.
Thank you. At this time, this is going to conclude the 2023 Chief of Police Public Forum. We thank you all for attending. If you have any questions, you can always call our administration office at 915-858-2915 or visit our website at www.costx.us. Thank you.
Thank you.